All right, so good morning or good afternoon to you guys. I'm sorry I couldn't be in class today, but we are going to give this a go around and see how this goes. Okay, so hopefully by now you have read the New Zella reading. Okay, so in that reading, it gives a very brief overview of a lot of the very first civilizations that are going to begin in the world. Okay, we are looking at the very beginning, starting with Mesopotamia. Okay, it gives you glimpses into other civilizations that develop. But the big thing that I want you to get out of that reading is what were some common themes? What did it say you needed in order to be considered a civilization? Okay? What were some of the examples it gave in the reading? So, that is what we are going to be looking at in today's lecture. What makes a civilization? So, to be considered civilized, there are 7 requirements that must be met. The first is a stable food supply. Obviously, if you have a stable food supply, it means your people will likely not riot against you because everyone's being fed. Okay? Always a good thing when tummies are full. So, having a stable food supply. This is going to happen when you move from being hunters and gatherers, where you're having to roam around to find your food. This change is going to happen when you begin to plant, when you begin having agriculture, when you figure out that you can stay in one place and grow crops there repeatedly. Okay? That's going to help you establish that stable food supply. Next up, a social structure. With the social structure, when people come together, you're going to begin having different levels of people. You're going to have the people at the top who are likely going to bring in the most money, so maybe they own the most land in the area. You're going to have somebody that's in charge, telling people this is what you need to do to your crops, these are the rules you need to follow. Okay? You're going to have the middlemen. The middlemen could be a variety of people depending on the class structure. They could be just the step below, maybe the people in charge of the little city-states. Maybe they're the military, making sure to enforce the rules to keep everybody in line, to keep people out of your territory. And then you have the bottom of any social class. This is likely going to be the labor. These are going to be the people who are actually working the fields, doing any kind of trades. Okay? Next, system of government. So having a social structure usually means there is some kind of government in place. Now, what kind of government are we looking at in the very early stages? Not going to be very complex as compared to when we move on to the Romans or the Greeks, because you got to remember, these are the very first civilizations. So with these groups of people, you are going to be dealing with a king who's in charge to lead the way. Next up, a highly developed culture. This meaning that you have customs, you have things that make your civilization unique compared to other people. Maybe it's your art, architecture, language, religious beliefs. Those are going to be things that develop a culture. Advances in technology. This is going to be huge. You have to remember, what we're looking at right now is the beginning of everything. So what that means is, yes, you're going to have the creation of a wheel. Why do you need a wheel? Because you figured out that plowing the field by hand is getting a little tiresome. So you're going to figure out a way to create wheels, hook it onto an animal, and use the animal to make a plow. Technological advances like that are going to be huge. And with those technological advances, it means you have people in your community that can create that kind of technology. Highly developed written language. So this means you have some form of record keeping. It means you have some kind of written language that you can communicate with others. This is huge. This is how we know about these civilizations. This is their record of it. Okay? Okay, so we just listed all 7 of those characteristics that make a civilization. What's the issue? What's wrong with these requirements? Tell me. Hopefully, some of the issues you told me were What if everybody doesn't follow those guidelines? What if what they're used to, they're civilized? This is a set of standards that may not fit everybody. Everybody's version of civilized may look different. For example, if you look at African nations, for the longest time, they're not going to write their history down. Most of their stories and their history are going to be passed orally. They're going to tell those stories and pass them down that way. Does that mean that they're any less civilized? No. Okay, so early river civilizations, here we go. So, the very beginning, hunters and gatherers, that's Neolithic. You are going to be making this transition from hunting and gathering to now we figured out how to plant, let's stay here for a while. So, settlements, once you start settling down, that means you need rules and law to maintain order. Okay? It means you can't just have chaos occurring everywhere. Rules and laws are needed to regulate irrigation. So you have to make sure that people are following rules, that all the water from the river is not going to one person's farms. There has to be laws. Okay? If there's no order, it will be complete chaos. Threat of outside invasion. Once you have land, once you're established somewhere and have crops, it now means you have something to lose that other people may want. So what does that mean you need? A military. Okay? It means you're going to need a military to protect your land, your area, and your property. Money from taxes and tributes. Who's going to pay this said military? Because I don't think they're going to be doing it voluntarily. The taxes. So now you have the development of a tax system in order to pay the military for protecting you. Okay, so first one up, and all of these links are included on Google Classroom. So I would like you to, after we finish this, go through and watch these videos, okay? So, the Tigris and the Euphrates River, 4,500 BC. This is the heartland, okay? Present day country of this is going to be Iraq, okay? That's where this is going to be located. The Sumerians are going to arrive in around 3,500 BC, and they're going to begin irrigation. Now, how do they begin irrigation? They're going to use the rivers. They are going to use the rivers to make little canals to connect to their farmland. They're going to figure out the patterns of the river. When is the river low? When is the river high? What are the flood stages of it? How can we use this to our farming advantage? Also, they're going to be polytheistic. Now, polytheistic means you believe in more than one God. Monotheistic means that you believe in one God. Poly meaning more, mono meaning one. Scientific advancements, achievements. This is going to be something we look at in every civilization because you have to remember, everyone's figuring this out on their own. So there are always going to be some kind of scientific achievements going on. For example, they'll have the wheel, the plow, sails for boats, of course, a number system based on 60 and 360 degrees. They'll have their writing system, cuneiform. Now, you have this law code, Hammurabi's, okay? So, with this, if you've ever heard of an eye for an eye, this is where that came from, okay? This is where you just make it even, okay? It was very extreme, very, very extreme, I should tell you. They literally were going to take an eye for an eye, okay? But it's the basic law of code. What this means is if you do something wrong, there will be an equal punishment for it, okay? And then, of course, other civilizations are going to develop from this area, the Assyrians, Phoenicians, Hebrews, okay? They're going to adopt some of these first ideas that were in this area. Here is a map. So this is going to be the Tigris River. This is going to be the Euphrates River. These are the temples that they built. So yes, they did build these large temples. This was to worship their gods. Okay, so next up, Egypt. Looking at Egypt, it is going to be one of the earliest settlements along the Nile, and the Egyptians are around for a long time. Okay, there are 3 different stages, and you'll see that in the video. That's how long they are. They divided their history up into 3 different parts. What we're focused on is the very beginning, the first part. So again, river civilization, hence the name. They are going to use their river, the Nile, to help grow their crops. That's how they are going to water them. When you look at their government, they're going to have pharaohs. Pharaohs are god kings. So what this means is that it's believed that these pharaohs are descendants of gods. So that means you listen to them. What that also means is they control your politics and they control the religion. Okay, so this is a form of government where rulers were the divine leaders of both. Okay, again, polytheistic, and you'll notice with the polytheistic, especially for this, it's centered around nature. You'll have sun gods, you'll have things like that, because that's what's important to them at this moment, is making sure they have sun to grow their crops and things like that. Pyramids are going to be built for the pharaohs. The reason why pyramids will be built for the pharaohs is that they're descendants of the gods. When they die, they re-become a god. And mummification. So looking at this, you will see this is the Nile. And so it's a little reversed. You'll hear this in the video. Okay, so the labeling is going to be a little different. So the Nile is ending at the Mediterranean. So the Nile is flowing north and emptying that way, which is a little different. Here is a picture of the pyramids in Egypt. I want you to note how large they are. And with this, with how large these are, that's why they had to come up with these scientific inventions. They'd come up with ways of measuring to make sure that they were geometrically correct and that they were actually going to work and not fall apart. Okay? All right, we got 2 more. So, Indus River Valley. Indus River Valley is very cool. Okay? I promise it is. But not a lot of information on it. So, here we go. They will have 2 major cities. Okay? They are going to be very advanced because they are going to develop their cities on a grid system. So what that means is, I want you to think of like New York City. When you're planning New York City, it's on a grid. Every building has a particular spot it needs to be in. And it also means you have people living in like some sort of apartments, almost, living on top of each other. And so with that, you have to plan it out. You can't just start building houses and not have any plan, or at least that's what they thought. They are going to be so advanced that they will even have their own plumbing and sewage system that they will create underneath the city itself, hence the grid planning. Early cities are going to decline due to the possible change in course of the Indus River. Now, here's the odd part. I mean, they really did just disappear, almost. Not really any clear evidence on why, other than possibly the river change. But other than that, there's no real evidence on why the Indus River Valley collapsed. The Aryan religious features, so they will have their sacred text of the Vedas. Okay, what that is it's the sacred text it's used in Hinduism, and including Hinduism, you'll have the caste system, and we will talk about the caste system when we look at religions. So here is our Indus River Valley. There's the Indus River. Here is Pakistan. So that's what modern day country the Indus River Valley would have been in, is Pakistan, just northeast of India. So here is that picture. This is an example of their grid system. They're planning for the city. All right, our last one, the Shang. Okay, looking at the Shang, they will be off of the Yellow River, or the Honghe. The Shang dynasty, there's going to be a lot of Chinese dynasties. I'm just going to warn you. And we're going to breeze through 2 of them, and then we'll dive in deeper once we start into our units. But with the Shang dynasty, and you'll see this repeatedly in Asian cultures, there is this importance of family. Okay? And with family, that comes with respecting your elders. They're going to hold a different level of responsibility in the family. And you'll have division of classes. This is going to be a big deal because sometimes during different dynasties, they tend to put a little hate on some of those classes. Sometimes it may be the scholars. Sometimes it may be the merchants. We'll talk about that. Writing system where each symbol represents an idea. Now, in the reading you should have done in class, what is unique about the Chinese writing system? Hopefully, what you just put was that it is the only one that is still a picture language. Technology and science. So you're going to have the Great Wall of China being built during this time. You're going to have them doing bronze working, coined money, ironworks, and silk. All things that are going to be super important when it comes to trade, especially the Silk Road. So that is all for the River Valley civilizations. What you should move on to, and here's the map. What you should do next is you need to do the Kami map assignment on Google Classroom. So map will be on Classroom. So to get onto Kami, you need to get on Safari. In Safari, you need to do classroom.google.com. Okay? Do not go to the Classroom app. You will not be able to open up Kami if you go through Classroom app. Now, once you're there, you should see a PDF version of the map. You should click Open With. After clicking Open With, you should click Kami or Annotate with Kami. If that does not pop up, search for Kami and then connect it. Okay? Be good for the sub. If you guys have any questions while you're doing this work, email me. Okay? Y'all have a good day.